Hello, and welcome to Guided to Great What's Next. Find your next move to fill your passion and unleash your maximum potential summit to help you uncover your next step and become clear on what you actually want to do with your life. I'm your host, Amanda Hill, and today we have John Fulsoni, who is a motivational speaker, author, masterclass instructor, and host of an international comedy podcast. His area of expertise is mindset, and so that's exactly what we're going to be diving into today, the straight up strategies to understand what makes you do what you do. So, John, welcome. And
Yes.
I'll help you start just by sharing a little bit about your story and how you got where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely, Amanda. I mean, like many people, pretty humble beginnings. I came to Dallas, Texas 34 years ago, like completely broke. I mean, completely broke. Stayed with some family for a short period of time, became a waiter, interviewed with some corporations, finally got my first corporation gig, stayed with them for like 5 years, learned a lot about how to professionally sell and how to cold call.
Mm.
Uh, Kind of bottomed out on income, went to work for another large company and did that along with some other firms for like 9 years. And now I'm in professional consulting, but the big takeaway is I'm independently wealthy. Like I do not need to work. I choose to work, but I don't need to work. The other big takeaway is like I'm trying to give back. Like, I didn't start out in this world, you know, with tons of, ability and self-confidence and all that stuff that you see today with people on the internet. I mean, I gotta admit, like, I was insecure. When I had my very first sales job, I can give you this example. I would be on the phone with the prospective client, and I was so under pressure that my arm would shake and go into convulsions. And these days, I don't care if they buy or not. Of course, I want them to buy, but I'm just saying that like I've risen above that, and everybody can. It's just a muscle, a mental muscle that every single day you have to exercise, just like you have to exercise your body, you have to exercise your mind.
Mhm. Can you give some practical ways? Because I know this audience is probably dealing with imposter syndrome and that fear of stepping outside the
Yeah.
comfort zone. Do you have just any tactical techniques that kind of helped you move along that progression of just feeling comfortable in what in yourself and like what you have to offer?
Absolutely. And I love analogies, right? So if you think to Star Wars, I don't know how many people watch Star Wars, but the whole time, like Luke Skywalker is a Jedi Knight and he doesn't know it. Like he just thinks he's this poor farmer boy and he's growing up and he's farming and then he comes to find out that he's like Yoda, Yoda gets with him. Next thing he knows, he's this Jedi Knight and he's fighting his dad, Darth Vader. So how did he get there? Uh, Association with Yoda. So association with wisdom, so important. So how can people get associated with wisdom? I'm going to tell you how I did it. I did it by investing in myself and in particular, investing in the greats in business, Zig Ziglar, Tom Hopkins, Brian Tracy. The list goes on, but these are Tony Robbins. I mean, the who's who of professional sales. These are the people that like I studied.
Mhm.
And when I say studied, like if you saw me in my early 20s, I'd be sitting there reading the book See You at the Top by Zig Ziglar, early 20s. Like at my lunchtime, I'm reading a chapter of See You at the Top. I'm coming back, I'm getting on the phone with clients and I'm selling. And that's what's so important. Like all of us want to go out there and be Olympic performers, but many of us don't realize just because of maybe our background or who we associate with what it takes to be an Olympic performer.
Mhm.
Think about watching the Olympics and you see these unbelievable things that these people will do, like the Winter Olympics. Oh my God, my eyes are popping out of my head thinking about the stuff they do. But here, what you don't see getting up at 4 in the morning. You don't see them like taking the cold baths. You don't see them doing the cold splunge. You don't see what it takes. You don't see them hitting the weights, the ice skaters. You don't see the hours and hours that those women and those men spend at their local ice rink practice when all their friends are going to parties and stuff like that. No, they're learning their sport. And that's what it takes to level up. You gotta learn your sport and put in the time and study with the greats. I hope that helps.
It does, and, like, for me and I am, like, I love learning, and I feel, though, it's hard to kind of implement some of the things that you are learning. Like, it can be comfortable just to be stuck in that routine of just, "I'm just gonna watch a class," but it's hard to actually take action. So do you have
Yeah.
any techniques to, like, maybe implement some of the things that we're learning from people who have done it before us that we want to be more like?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So the number one thing you gotta do is you can't get to where you wanna go if you don't have a written plan. So
Okay,
you
yeah.
gotta get out a piece of paper, and these days, with computers, get out a Word document and then copy and like my written plan is typically like goals, things I want to achieve. Like I call it a warrior vision list. Like I want to do this, 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 and this. And I still have things that I want to achieve. And I still have things on my warrior vision list that I'm trying to achieve. But like early on in my life, I had a list. And my list was like get married, buy a house, have a secure business, have a growing business, or have the ability, I had all these things. Like mine was really specific because like at the time I wanted to work for a Fortune 500 company. I wanted upward mobility. I wanted to be married. The person I was marrying, I wanted him to be into music because I'm into music. So like the list, but I was like really specific down to the fact that like I wanted to join a co-ed sand volleyball team, not a sand volleyball team, a co-ed sand volleyball team. And I had it like all these things like tick, 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 tick on a list. And I got to tell you, they call it the power of attraction. Um, and and just about everything on my list has been achieved. So that's why I'm making another list because like things that I thought were unachievable, like when I was living in my apartment and I had this old grungy couch that I bought for my last roommate. And my TV was sitting, I think, on the floor because I didn't even have anything to put my TV on at the time. So you're and you gotta like, even though things aren't going your way, and things weren't going my way. Like I'd go over to friends' houses and like these days people are into cars and they're like, man, I can't believe how nice a car my friend drives, or I can't believe how nice a vacation. Well, back then I'd be like, God, I can't believe because back then TVs were expensive and money was short. And back then I'd be like, God, I can't believe how big that dude's TV is, and I had this little TV. But but what I'm saying is like you gotta have a vision so you have something you're moving towards.
Yeah,
If you have something you're moving towards, so important. And building confidence in order to like sit in front of people and ask for business and ask for new jobs, that tends to come with not only a vision list, but also like knowing who you are.
yeah,
Like some people, when they're in the midst of an obstacle, they forget who they are. It happens. But I can tell you, like, if you think of the great rock musicians like Mick Jagger, uh, let's see, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, um, these great, huge stars. I guarantee you before they go on stage, they sit there and psych themselves up. And
right.
that's what we need to do.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how often do you look at your list or, like,
Great
remind
question.
yourself?
Yeah. So there was a time I was looking at it like on a weekly basis. So particularly I was looking at it because I have young adult sons and I would be looking at it like, where do I think they are in life? Like, I hope that like they're going to do this or that or whatever. And I'd kind of keep track of that. And then all my stuff would be there too. Something what I do too is I combine things that I've accomplished with things I have yet to accomplish.
Yeah, that's
That
really good.
and
I
and,
think it
and you're
makes more
go ahead. I'm
realistic.
sorry.
Oh,
What's
no, I
that?
think it makes it more realistic when you can see some of the stuff you've already
Yes.
done mixed in with that. So it's not all these, like, ambiguous, pictures and visualizations.
Yes,
So
exactly. Yeah, so
that's a great
true,
tip.
so true, yeah. I mean, like, back when I was paying my house off, that was a huge goal of mine,
Mhm.
and, like, every decision I made, it was like a litmus test. Would this get me closer to paying my house off, or is this gonna get me farther away from paying? And every little thing that I did would be based upon if this was gonna get me financially independent or not, where I wouldn't have a mortgage. And, um and this was like kind of an And when I was in the throes of that, it was, like, really exciting, and then when it got down to that last $5,000, it was, like, super exciting, like, woke up that
Right.
morning, logged into the bank, transferred the money to the mortgage company, and
Yeah.
I think I paid off my van that same morning. It was like, hallelujah,
That's
you know,
awesome.
hallelujah. But, hey, I wanna be able to share stuff with your folks that are, like, getting ready to interview and stuff like that because I got real good stuff I can share on that.
Sure. Yeah. Let's go into a little bit of that because
Okay.
we've talked about like imposter syndrome, and I know you have experience cold calling. I know interviews can kind of feel that way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, can you give us just some tangible things to prepare for as we are interviewing and some of the skills we should start to have
Sure.
ourselves at?
Well, one skill that'll help people is you gotta think like the interviewer. If you
Hmm.
think like the interviewer, you're gonna be, it's not that you're not gonna be nervous, and truthfully, when you're nervous, many times you can do your best. You might not feel like you're doing your best,
Hmm.
but you're gonna be focused on that person. Maybe your voice isn't gonna be as strong, but interviewers kinda like that a little bit because somebody's
Okay.
gonna hire somebody to do a job. They kinda like that the person really wants this job.
Hmm.
Now you still gotta be able to sell yourself, don't get me wrong, and, there's a really, really good book, um, it's called Knock 'Em Dead,
Okay.
and, back in the day, you could get that book, it's by Martin Ye. You could get that book, at Kinko's Copies. Because people making copies for resumes needed that book. But what that book says, only 2 reasons you get hired. One reason is you could save the company money, or you can make the company money.
Hmm.
So as they're thinking about you as an administrative assistant, not you in particular, I'm just saying like somebody going for like being an admin or being a CPA, they're thinking, can they produce? Is this gonna add to our bottom line, or is this gonna take away from the bottom line? Do we
Right.
feel like so many people are gonna have to help this individual, or do we feel like this person's a self-starter? Like, if we hire him as a CPA, we're gonna immediately be able to give them work. They're gonna be able to produce. We're gonna be able to bill our clients. If we hire them as salespeople, are they gonna be able to sell? Are they gonna immediately be profitable? If we have them as an admin or a manager or anything like that, are they gonna be the type of person that's gonna be a self-starter, gonna find our company way to save money, gonna help hire really good people to do these jobs? And when you think like that, then you know what the employer is looking for. So it's really important. And the book Knock 'Em Dead does a great job as they talk to you and they start asking you questions. What's really good if you can isolate exactly what they're looking for. So if early on, as they're talking and they give you the opportunity to ask a question, one of the best questions you can ask is, Mr. Smith. It's good to call them Mr. and Mrs. when they're interviewing you, particularly if they're older than you. Mr. Smith, I'm sure there's a lot of really qualified people going for this position. I'm sure you're excited about a lot of the applicants and everything. You just kind of give a nod to that it's a big job for him. But you know what? I imagine there's like one skill set or one attitude that you're looking for that you just can't live without. I want to know what that one thing is.
Oh.
And they're going to tell you. And then you know what you do? Like, let's say they say it's organization. You come back and oh, I see. So organization is really important. Let me tell you about, like, if you're coming from college, let me tell you about how I was able to stay so organized in college.
Hmm.
And this is the way you do it. You isolate what they're looking for. And then when you present yourself, this is really powerful too. When they say, tell me about yourself or tell me why you want this job, this is a really powerful thing to do. It's called the power of three. You say, there's 3 reasons, Mr. Smith, why you should hire me. Number one, I'm organized. Number two, I'm a very productive individual. Number three, I have a don't quit attitude. And let me give you examples. And then you give them an example of number one. You give them an example of number two. You give them an example of number three, like real measurable examples, like my last company or when I was in college. I helped organize such and such and so and so. It was a philanthropy I was involved in, and we raised lots of money. And I coordinated all these people, and I got all those people there on time. and we were able to present this charity with a check for $4,000. Like that's an example. You got to give them something like measurable where it's not enough to say you're organized. It's not enough to say you're productive. It's not enough to say that you're not a quitter. You've got to show like, you got to present to these three things. But if you go in there and say number one, this, number two, this, number three, this, the thing they're going to walk away with is this person is solid in their thinking process. Like they're so organized, they've broken theirs down to 3 points.
Mhm.
People love 3 points. If you look at most PowerPoints, there's 3 points like there's three
True.
points for each major point,
There's 3 points for this interview.
Okay, well, there you go. There you go. I speak
Yeah.
of the truth. So
It
I
really is
speak
so true.
of the
I love that.
So, yeah. But that's such a powerful thing to do, the power of three. I learned that back in college from my fraternity. Like anytime you're going for a position, be like, well, why should we have you over the other guys, John? Well, number one, I'm this. Number two, I'm this. Number three, I'm this. Let me explain. I did this, and so you layer it and then you go deep on it. And at the end of the day, they walk away with, oh, these are the three reasons why we should have them over the other guys.
Mhm.
Yeah, the
I
presidential
love it.
candidate should try that instead of making fun of each other.
Right, yeah. And I hear you say you can pull from any type of experience too, like, I feel like there's a lot more we can pull from
Yeah.
just our past jobs, like, there's organizations, that's why volunteering is so helpful as well. So, yeah. And a tip I got that really helped me is I was told to write down 3 examples that you can tell, like, a story around. So it kinda helps when you can speak to things on the fly, so you don't have to prepare for, like, every little thing they might say.
Exactly.
Yeah, speaking to what
Yes.
you were saying, tell me what you need, so I love that, but having those, on the table so you can really speak to them would be really critical in helping you prepare, so
Yeah, isolate what they're looking for,
uh-huh,
and then you can win the job and
right.
prove to them. Yeah, so that's
'Cause
so
no
solid.
one's gonna ask them that, so that's really great.
And give them examples.
Yeah,
Don't make a blanket statement on this. Give them an example and take the time to really like understand how to sell yourself and don't sell yourself short. Like I know that like the term imposter syndrome is used a lot and I don't think that's good for us to feed our minds with that.
no, and yeah,
It's just like it's not good for us to think that being nervous is a negative thing.
mhm,
They have found through research that like nervous people doing sports can actually do better than when they're overly confident because they got more adrenaline pumping, you know.
yeah,
So like just being
perspective, yeah,
nervous, yeah, just being nervous shouldn't be thought of as being negative. I don't personally think we should say the term imposter syndrome. I know it's used a lot in like self-help books, and
mhm,
it's so easy to say, "Oh, I couldn't do that because I had imposter syndrome." No, you couldn't do that because you didn't prepare to do that. Like if you wanna get psyched to do something in life, watch one of the Rocky movies. I mean, you take this hoodlum and, and he trains under this, gentleman that was a world champion trainer, and he turns him into the world boxing champion. I know it's fictional, but, uh, but it's like the mentality in life you gotta have. You gotta train to move ahead. You
mhm.
can't expect to do what all your friends are doing if you wanna do better than your friends. Um, and maybe people do and maybe people don't, and maybe you wanna make new friends too, but what I'm just saying is you gotta train and you gotta it's mental, and, as much time as people spend in the gym, they should spend in expanding their own minds.
And I would love to dig into that a level deeper because being nervous is natural, but it can also inhibit our performance to the point where we might miss opportunities. Is there ways that we can prepare ourselves mentally for some of the harder things? Like you said, going to the gym will like prepare us like our strength, but how can we prepare ourselves mentally like on a daily basis?
Sure, sure. Well, there's all kinds of really good things out there to, like, help people, like, manage their emotions. So one thing is you have your list of accomplishments. So before you go into anything that's considered stressful, you look at your 5 best list of accomplishments, whether that's graduating high school, playing football in high school, playing soccer in high school, whatever it is, playing baseball in grade school, anything that like you feel is an accomplishment that you did and you're super proud of should be on that list. And if you can get it to 10 things, all the better. And it's okay if they're in the past. It's still an accomplishment. It should still make a person feel good about themselves because when we go into a stressful situation, we should not go into a stressful situation without our past. Particularly, we should be focusing on those things that we were successful at. Things we weren't successful at are irrelevant when we're trying to be successful. We need to focus on what we're good at and what we've been good at, and we need to look at it. And two, like if it helps people to say it, like, I did this, I did this, I did this. This is the time to get arrogant and to build yourself up. And then two, there are other things that you can do. Um, one thing you can do is deep breathing exercises. That's a really good way to calm down when you're nervous. So like it's called box breathing. It's like let's see, 5 in, hold it 5, 5 out, 5, 5, 5, box breathing, and that's a really good way because that lowers your biorhythms and it gets you to perform better, and maybe for your voice to sound stronger. That's good.
Mhm.
Another thing to do, and I just started doing this maybe 5 years ago. So I became a boat captain and started, driving speedboats and big pontoon boats and that kind of thing, and I was nervous. Like, I'd never done it before, and sometimes the waters are kinda bad, and there's a bunch of people on the lake, and it's very particularly when you get ready to dock. It's not that bad
Yeah.
when you're out on the lake. It's when you're docking and there's a bunch of people around watching you and you gotta get it in there without banging the boat up or whatever, and one of the best things you can do is smile. So, like, when you're in, like, a super, super nervous situation, you'll be amazed, like, how smiling will increase endorphins to the brain. It'll help you breathe at a better pace, and it will tell you that you're in a better situation than what you were in prior. It like communicates to your brain when you smile that I'm trying to smile, so it communicates to your brain that you're in a better place, even if you're not in a better
Right.
place. And many times I've docked a boat and really bad. I've docked boats when other people couldn't dock their boat. Like they would try to get the waves are so bad that they would just give up and drive back away from the dock. And I've been able to dock. Why? Because I'm focused on it. I'm smiling, and and it's a goal, and, uh, and I'm focused on it. That's half of, like, achievement of a goal, and that's why you write your goals down, is to be focused. If you don't write your goals down, it's a wish. It's just
Right.
like a mental wish, like, "Oh, one day I'm gonna start a business. Oh, one day I'm gonna write a book. Oh,
Right.
one day I'm gonna join a club. Oh, I need to meet more." You know, we can have all these different, like, wishes, but if we write it down and give ourselves, like, a gut check, boom, we can get in the game.
Awesome. Yeah, it's about hacking your brain because it just wants to protect us. So having that awareness and just realizing that your brain is trying, I think it has helped me overcome things. Like, okay, this is just me
Yeah,
trying to, protect me. And so it's like you're not so hard on yourself. That's really helped. So
exactly. Well, and
great.
being hard on yourself can be a positive too, like, if we reframe it, because
Right.
like, most people hard on themselves are detail oriented. So,
Mhm.
yes, it's nice to be nice to yourself, but it's also good not to leave the stove on.
Right. Yeah. Some accountability to your own self. Yeah.
Yeah, so, it's not that bad to be hard on yourself.
Right.
Also, like, many times people that are hard on themselves, because 'cause I've been hard on myself, you're deep thinkers too, which can make you analytical. If you
Hmm.
can leave, like, the way that you, like, question things you do to being analytical, you can gain wisdom and be a better problem solver. So the same skill set that people use maybe to cut themselves down or think less of themselves or be nitpicky, "Oh, I got lint on my shirt. Oh, my slacks are wrinkled. Oh, I don't have as nice as shoes as the other person," whatever. Well, that can lead to like being analytical, which can help you solve problems. Like you're getting ready to buy a car, and you're like, oh, that interior's not as good as that interior, so you can be hard on that car too. You know?
Right. It's all
So
about perspective. You gotta make
absolutely.
make it work for you. Even your weaknesses, like you're saying. There's a way I'm sure you can get them to work for you. So Great
Yes,
inflection
yes.
point.
Whatever your attributes, you can turn lemon into lemonade if
Right.
you know how to reframe. And that's probably the most powerful thing a person can learn is how to reframe because then you're not a victim of your circumstances. Your
Exactly.
circumstances are you're in the driver's seat to evaluate your circumstances any way you want.
Mhm.
Even if it's like getting sick and even if it's like losing a family member, you can reevaluate those things as being positive. Now, maybe it's not going to happen immediately. Um, but like I've gotten sick and rushed to the emergency room. I've broken bones. I've done things that, happen in life or whatever. And I always say to myself, at least I don't have cancer. That's how I always get through it. So if I ever have cancer, I don't know what my comeback's gonna be. People that do have
Yes.
cancer, we're praying for you.
Right.
But but that's how I get through. Like if I have to have like a really bad dental extraction or something like that, I'm like, oh, thank God I don't have cancer. Or, I know I have to have this done or my foot popped back into place because I broke it so bad, but at least I don't have cancer.
At least I
So
have
then
health insurance or something. That's
yeah,
the
yeah, or
life
something,
insurance.
yeah.
Yeah.
If I ever get cancer, I guess it's gonna be at least I have health insurance. This
Yeah. At
is really nice.
least I have a
Uh,
doctor.
this
Yeah.
TV works really well. So you can
Yeah.
always whatever's going on in your life, you can always reframe it to the positive.
Right. Yeah. It makes it a lot more pleasant, and yeah, that's a great piece of advice. So this
Yeah.
has been great. I understand
Also
you have a free goodie for us. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
oh, yeah, so, it's about 50 minutes of, psychological, tips and tricks, really, similar to what I've been sharing today, but maybe I break it down more and
Yeah.
give you some more, like, ways you can use it, pardon me, in your own life.
Mhm.
It'll be probably about 50 minutes, but it'll be a video people can download. So, it'll be, when I got interviewed by one of my friends on their podcast. So please subscribe to their podcast. It's a good podcast.
What's the podcast?
Um, it's called, 150.
Oh, okay.
And the idea is that, the gentleman that started this, podcast believes that, like, we should shoot for and and I didn't create this podcast or this, mindset, but he's of the belief that people should shoot to make 150,000 or more or whatever. Do I believe that? Nah, not necessarily. People should shoot to be happy and,
Right.
be able to do what they wanna do in life and be impactful to their family and friends. If it takes making 150 to do that, some people can make a lot less and be a lot happier than somebody making 150. So we shouldn't put a dollar amount. Um, but that's just he calls it the 150 podcast, so I was a guest on it.
Oh, awesome. Great.
Yeah,
Yeah. It sounds like all of this I love what the freebies are related so people can actually apply it to their own life based on what they've learned in this
absolutely.
interview.
Yeah.
So we only have a few more minutes. Do you have one habit or action step that you would advise the audience to start implementing today?
Oh, yeah. So an action step, it's probably more of a mindset thing, but something that helps me every day is keep in mind that life is short.
Yeah.
If you keep in mind life is short, you'll tend to go after more opportunities as they present themselves to you. And you
Mhm.
also tend to, and it's not just business opportunities, it's social opportunities. You'll tend to have a better fulfilled life if you think about the fact that life is short. And then I couple that with the other part of my life's motto, which life is for living. Life's not for worrying. Life's not for, being petty or life is for living. Go out there and have the most fun you can possibly have because you really only get one time around this merry-go-round. And so you might as well have the best possible time can because there's
Yeah.
nothing to lose.
Right.
The,
Yeah. You don't have to.
the flip side is having a bad time. Who wants to have a bad time?
Yeah.
You'll have
Yeah.
more friends if you're more fun.
Thanks for reminding us that it's hard to not just get caught up in the habitual momentum of life. So really appreciate
Oh, yeah. Well,
that inspiration.
you gotta have goals and you gotta
Right.
be searching for them and stuff, but you also gotta, like, live in the moment.
Mhm.
Like, enjoy where you're at, like, right now. There's a great book out there. I wrote a good book. It's called Sales Warrior on Amazon, but there's a great book out there, and it's called, How to Be Happy.
Mhm.
And, the neat thing about this book, How to Be Happy, is I think it's only 20 pages, but the first paragraph says it all. And the author is have you read it, Amanda? Okay. So the author just sets it up perfectly. I remember I was living with like 3 guys in a crappy apartment in college, and I opened this book up, How to Be Happy, and nothing in my opinion was going right. I'm living with 3 guys, I'm sharing a room with another guy. We were cramped. When we had friends over, it was even worse. It was a bad part of town. Only good thing, a grocery store and liquor store were closed. So there was a good thing about where we were living, and we were very close to all the bars. I'm not saying people should drink. I'm saying that's something that was important to me back in the day. But anyway, I digress. So you read the paragraph, and it says you should be happy like right now.
Right.
Like you should be happy right
Don't
now.
wait for tomorrow. Yeah,
Yeah, don't your circumstances should not dictate your
for
happiness.
sure.
You should be able to be happy where you are right now. And that was a stretch for me because I was, sitting on a crappy couch with a crappy TV in a crappy apartment in a bad part of town. And I was like, that was mind expanding for me though. But it's so true. You got to be happy in the hospital. You got to be happy in the tow truck as you broke down on the side of the road, and you gotta be happy, unfortunately, at some point after you lose a friend to death. But to be happy long term, everybody, you can connect with me at saleswarriorinspire.com. Please get out there with me, John Sales Warrior on LinkedIn. And I'm out there with a lot of professionals, a lot of hiring managers. So being a friend with me on LinkedIn, if you're looking for a gig, could be good for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John, for sharing everything today. We really appreciate you sharing all
Absolutely.
the
Yeah. Hey, my pleasure, Amanda. Have a good one. Cheers.